Thank you, friends. Well, breaking news this morning, the FBI raiding the home of former U.S. Ambassador John Bolton. It is a stunning development, and we are following it as it happens. Good morning. I'm Dana Perino. Bill Hemmer is off today, and great to be with you again. Bill Malugin.
Good morning to you. Happy Friday. Been a great week with you.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Malugin. This is America's Newsroom. Ambassador Bolton lives in Bethesda, Maryland. Agents raided his house early this morning. It's not exactly clear what they're looking for, though a source does tell Fox it may involve classified documents. As of right now, we're told Bolton is not under arrest.
John Bolton served as President Trump's national security advisor during his first term. Earlier this year, President Trump revoked Bolton's security detail, despite the fact that Bolton was still facing assassination threats from Iran.
Our David Spunt has been on this story since it broke this morning. He is joining us live in Washington with more on this. David, what do we know?
Well, good morning to you both. This happened a little bit after 7 o'clock this morning. These FBI raids tend to happen early in the morning. We are told that Ambassador Bolton did not have a heads up on this, and a magistrate judge would have had to sign off on this. The FBI did not just go into his home looking for anything they could find. They had a very specific list of what they're looking for. Multiple sources say this is related to classified documents. What's not clear if these potentially are the classified documents that Bolton, Ambassador Bolton, after he was fired from the first Trump administration, was trying to hold on to as he wrote his book back during the first Trump administration, if that's related to that. We know his attorney at the time said that there were no classified documents, but that's a little bit murky right now at this point, so we're waiting to see what's happening there. Separately, at his office in Washington, D.C., we are told by sources on the scene Ambassador Bolton is there. He's been talking to agents, and we saw some FBI agents leave with a couple of SUVs with some documents outside the back of the office there, as you see a live look there. So as you mentioned, and we want to reiterate from the top, there is no indication that Ambassador Bolton is under arrest or he's charged with anything. This is very early in the process, but I will note one more time, a magistrate judge would have had to sign off on such a warrant for FBI agents to be able to go in the home, and they would have had to prove that there were some classified documents in there, and they needed to get those documents back. So we can't say with 100% there are classified documents there, but that is what this investigation is involving, we're told. Bill, Dana.
And to your point, David, that does mean that federal judge agreed there's at least some sort of probable cause here. David Spunt, go ahead and stand by for us. Appreciate that live report.
Will do. Thanks.
Former DOJ prosecutor Jim Trusty, former FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker, and Fox News contributor Byron York joins us all now. Can we get you to talk about that point, Jim Trusty, about the process in order to get something like this approved for the FBI to go in?
Sure, yeah. I mean, look, they had to lay out their information in an affidavit for a magistrate, probably one from my old stomping ground in Greenbelt, Maryland. And the judge at that point is reviewing it with a pretty low standard, probable cause. That's not a high thing. That's not, laying out the entire case the government might have. That affidavit, unfortunately, is the one thing that we all kind of clamor for that we probably won't see for a long time. What you will see possibly would be the application for the warrant that just gives a little bit of details on what the potential charges could be and who signed off on it as a judge. And then if we're lucky, an inventory. And an inventory is a document where the FBI agents that are involved have to write out what it is they actually seized from this home in Bethesda. Again, there's a real art to that. When I was dealing with this back in August of 2022 at Mar-a-Lago, they were very cryptic in terms of what they put in the inventory, to the point where the judge said, come on, you got to say more than just documents. But whether they'll give like a fulsome kind of description of what got seized or not, we don't know. But that's probably the best hope for something that we can see publicly in coming days, is that inventory and the application, which all go into the search warrant package.
And then, Byron, I want to get your thoughts on the politics of all this. If we can pull this up, Kash Patel, FBI director, tweeted this out earlier this morning, basically as that raid was ongoing. It was kind of vague at the time. No one really knew what he was talking about. He said, quote, "No one is above the law. FBI agents on mission." That tweet went out basically as soon as this search warrant began. Byron, in 2023, Kash Patel wrote a book called Government Gangsters, and at the end of that book, there was an appendix where he kind of put a list of people he called deep state actors who were a threat to democracy. John Bolton was on that list. How do you think the Trump administration is going to have to navigate the politics that comes with this search warrant? Because to David's point, obviously a judge did agree that there's some element of probable cause to sign off on the search warrant, but there's obviously going to be some politics at play here with the critics.
Well, I think President Trump's position is going to be pretty consistent. He does not like John Bolton. Bolton left the White House. So he served for about a year and a half. Left the White House in September 2019, and he was known as a prodigious note taker in the White House, and he immediately sets out to write a really negative book about Trump. And there was a huge fight over something called pre-publication review. And the two sides didn't agree about what could be in the book or what couldn't be in the book, what was classified, what wasn't classified. Big fight about it. And the bottom line is the book came out in the summer of 2020 during the presidential election. A lot of it concerned the president's first impeachment with Ukraine in 2019, which kind of seems like ancient history now, but that's what it was. The Trump administration in 2020, the Justice Department, opened a criminal investigation of Bolton about this book. And then when Trump lost the election, Biden became the president, the Biden Justice Department dropped that investigation. So it could be that this, what we're seeing today, is kind of unfinished business. There was an investigation in the Trump Justice Department, and it could be restarted, and this could be part of it.
Nicole Parker, let me get to you now. Pam Bondi responded to Kash Patel's tweet this morning, and she said, "America's safety isn't negotiable. Justice will be pursued always." Again, it's a little cryptic. We don't have details, but what could possibly she mean by America's safety isn't negotiable?
You know, that could mean a number of things, but as we know, we look at what happened with President Trump. You know, the FBI had no problem going in and doing that raid at Mar-a-Lago back on August 8th, a few years ago now. But, you know, like Kash Patel said, no one is above the law. And so that's what they're saying. John Bolton, like a previous guest said, an investigation was opened under the Trump DOJ into this alleged maybe using information for a memoir. And having written a book, they do go through very strict pre-publication guidelines and rules, and there are restrictions, and it sounds like he may have, you know, not honored those, and the last administration under President Trump was concerned about things that were divulged, but it was published anyway. But I think that Pam Bondi comes full circle with this, and she's saying she backs up Kash Patel. No one is above the law. America's safety always comes first.
Chris Swecker, want to go ahead and bring you in. John Bolton was Trump's national security. Oh, we don't have Chris Swecker. My apologies. Jim Trusty, question for you then. Bolton was Trump's national security advisor in 2018 and 2019, and he wrote his book in 2020. So we're talking, 5+ years ago. If this is a case involving, mishandling or divulging of classified information, what's the statute of limitations on this case? Would the Trump administration be up against any clock here in terms of trying to do any prosecution?
I don't think they will. Actually, the legal challenge in terms of it being old news would be if the search warrant was somehow stale, if the probable cause was too dated to be actionable. Here, you can usually write up an affidavit that says people hold on to documents. And if they have any sort of recent conduct on behalf of Mr. Bolton acknowledging the possession of this information, that would freshen it up too. So you normally have like a 3-year statute of limitations. Sometimes it's extended for national security type cases and others. I doubt that's a huge problem here. And just a quick note, I tell you what, I mean, with Dana accepted, people should be careful about books. You think about it, Biden possessed classified materials because he was trying to get a book out. Bolton did this. Go back to General Petraeus. He got in trouble with an author in classified documents. So maybe sometimes it's not worth trying to publish your little kiss and tell story.
Let me ask you one other question on that, Trusty, which is, obviously nobody is arrested yet. This is a raid of a home based on a judge's approval. But let's say if it goes forward, who is the U.S. attorney that would prosecute?
That's a great question. I mean, you probably would have venue in D.C. because the documents most likely originated within the D.C. intelligence community. So probably a D.C. case, speaking of former Fox folks.
Yep.
But it's also conceivable because the possession might have been in Maryland, that you could do it in Maryland. And lastly, let me just say real quick, there's a big difference, I think, between kind of possession, sometimes knowingly, sometimes not, of these classified materials. The quality of the classified materials can make a big difference. Some of them are just garbage that never should have been classified or should have been declassified. And then the use, is this something where he's using it for a book? Is it something that he could plausibly not really be thinking about? Or is it something where there's like a foreign element involved that makes it an entirely different kettle of fish. So, hopefully we'll know something soon, but I doubt it'll be real quick. I don't think we're going to have anything but kind of the public posturing for the next few weeks or months.
And Nicole, we continue to take a look at these live images outside of John Bolton's house in Maryland. Just give us a little color. What do you think is going on inside that house right now with these federal agents? Are they essentially grabbing any computer, any cell phone, any boxes of folders they find, or is it a little bit more narrowed and tailored than that?
That's an excellent question. When you execute a search warrant as an agent, typically it is very common that in the FBI we do execute search warrants first thing in the morning. That's for a number of reasons. Obviously, we want to make sure that the person is home. You have a higher chance of reaching them. Typically, the person is not present while you're executing the warrant. Typically, we ask the person, hey, can you please step outside of your home, your office, wherever it may be, so that the agents can go through. But as mentioned, the warrant is very specific, and it says, what you can search for, what you're allowed to take, what areas you're allowed to search. And so agents are going in there, and they're looking very closely at the affidavit, at the attachment, what they're allowed to take, and that's what they're doing. So it really depends on what the warrant specifies. And again, that comes down to, the magistrate judge. Whatever the magistrate judge authorizes, the agent goes before the magistrate judge, raises their right hand, swears out the warrant, and then the FBI or law enforcement agency is able to execute that warrant. And so that's why you're seeing them going at 7 a.m. Typically we would do them at 6 or 7 a.m. They go, and I'm not sure if you've noticed in other, news sites, but there are people outside the home, and there's one man wearing a T-shirt that says Trump is a national disgrace or something to that effect. So they'll typically say, please step out, and then the agents go in, and like we've mentioned, there is a property receipt. You sign everything that you took, you put it in there, you give them a copy of the warrant, and then you exit the home. Sometimes warrants take 10 minutes to execute, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes hours. It really just depends, but I do believe that this is probably going to be a long-term investigation. And again, it's important to note, he is not under arrest. This is simply a search warrant. There is a very important difference. A lot of times we execute a search warrant and arrest simultaneously. That is not what this is. This is only a search warrant.
Byron York, I want to take you with me to the way, way back machine, to when I was in the White House, and John Bolton at the time was nominated to be the UN ambassador. And boy, did we have a fight on our hands. And the DC Beltway media could not stand him. And that has changed quite a bit to where he is now. So the media reaction to this is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, well, Bolton essentially became, after working for Donald Trump, you'll remember in the 2016 election, in the primary process with the Republican Party, he was pretty quiet about that, did not come out against Trump, and then actually ended up working for Trump in the White House, but it all ended very, very badly, and he's become almost a hero of the resistance, And in the bigger picture here, I think as far as the public and the political reaction here, it's going to be impossible for the public to look at what's happening today without looking at it in the context of the raid on Mar-a-Lago. This is what the FBI did to Donald Trump. Now other people are getting to see how that tastes. So I think that a lot of public opinion is going to be along those lines. We'll have to see what was discovered, whether it is actually substantial or not. But you have to remember the FBI did do a raid on Mar-a-Lago. They did bring a criminal case. Trump was indicted on a bunch of counts over it. The judge really didn't like that case very much, but it only ended when Trump was elected president of the United States. So that was a serious thing, and this could be a serious thing for John Bolton, too.
All right, thank you so much. We have Jim Trusty, Nicole Parker, and Byron York. And of course, David Spunt kicked us off with all of the facts, and I'm sure we'll see him again this hour as this news just broke a couple of hours ago. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.